Hi everybody, welcome to another segment of A Course in Miracles Applied. Today's topic is called Our Tolerance for Pain. It's a happy topic, as you can imagine. We'll see how happy it is. But it is based on a sentence in chapter 2 of the text. It's chapter 2, section 3, and the section is called The Altar of God, and talks about the atonement, accepting the atonement, and one of those lines comes in the third paragraph, sentence 5. It says, "Tolerance for pain may be high, but it is not without limit. Eventually, everyone begins to recognize, however dimly, that there must be a better way. As this recognition becomes more firmly established, it becomes a turning point. This ultimately reawakens spiritual vision, simultaneously weakening the investment in physical sight." So this was very much in the very beginning of the text, at the beginning of the writing, chapter 2, on page 22, really early on in the text. And I think this can be understood on two levels. The first level would be, I think, the level where we live our lives prior to the Course or prior to any kind of serious spiritual path, right? We live our lives as best as we can, and we have this dull pain, this mental, emotional pain, some more, some less, and sometimes it's in times it's more, and in other times it's less. But it's, for me personally, it was a consistent. I always described it as a toothache that was slightly below the level of being conscious of. It's always something, but we can't name it, we can't recognize it, we're not able to actually fully identify it and become aware that it is pain, right? It's maybe an uneasiness, but so we live our lives, and eventually we become aware of that pain that is there. If we're not with the Holy Spirit, if we're not in the right mind, we must be at pain, right? There is no other choice. We can deny it, and we can postpone it, and we can kind of push it down, but the pain is there, whether we believe it or not, when we're with the ego, because the ego is a thought system of pain, right? Because we're separated. When we're with the ego, we believe we're separated from our source, right? A single drop of water is in the desert, believing that it is separated from the ocean. That is very, very painful to come in touch with that, right? So that pain in that stage of our journey can become a turning point. And we have phrases like we hit rock bottom. It doesn't have to be that dramatic, but it can be a moment where we realize this isn't working, or there must be a better way of living in this world. And as Helen and Bill discovered, or as Bill told Helen in this speech before the Course began in 1965, when he says, there must be a better way of living in relationships, not as competitive and cutthroat than they were used to in their hospital environment. So that was the turning point for them, and that basically was out of that pain that made Bill give this speech and say, there must be a better way, because the way we are living right now is not working, because there's too much pain, right? Or too much conflict. And that was the turning point. The Course started to come through. And for us, that same scenario happens maybe when we find the course, right, or find a spiritual path that leads us further on our journey, it is usually a period of pain that we're in that then makes us realize, okay, there must be something else, right? There must be something better. And this can't be all there is in this world, right? And when Jesus says, as this recognition becomes more firmly established, it becomes a turning point. So that turning point at that stage of the game is that we maybe pick up something that we have never picked up, maybe a spiritual book, maybe we go on a journey, maybe we do some soul searching and things like that. So that's that for me is in that framework, within the beginning stages of our work with the Course, that is what this paragraph says. And it's also at the beginning of the text, so it makes sense that Jesus tells us that at the beginning of the text. Right? This is you're now reading this Course because there was this turning point in your life. That doesn't mean that's the end of the journey, right? That's the very beginning of the journey. So the tolerance for pain. Now, then we start working with the Course and we go deeper into its thought system. We learn about the ego. We learn about the Holy Spirit. We do the workbook. We read the manual, and we live our lives applying as much as we can, as best as we can, the principles of the Course. And eventually, I think we come to a point where this sentence takes on a very different meaning. Right? It's still the same sentiment, but because we have made progress, this line, or as any other line in the Course also, right, has now a very different meaning for us. And in one sense, the Course leads us, so that would be the second level where this sentence plays a part, is the Course leads us to a point, and that is counterintuitive to anything that we believe and that any other spiritual path is about. This Course, I believe, leads us to a point where we come in touch with that basic pain of our guilt in order to get through it to the other side. Right? Yes, the Course leads us to peace. The end goal of the Course is peace. And Jesus says the peace of God comes to a quiet mind. Right? So the quiet mind is the Course's goal. And the quiet mind means it is a mind without guilt. Because the guilty mind is the mind that is shrieking and it's loud. And the thoughts are coming and going, and we can't seem to control them, right? And the innocent mind is the mind that can now settle down and await the peace of God, right? But in order to get there, we have to want to get there, right? Jesus says in lesson 189, I want the peace of God. 185, sorry. Lesson 185, I want the peace of God. To say these words means nothing. To mean these words means everything. So if the ticket to having peace is wanting peace, right? We established that in the channel, and the Course talks about that throughout, that our wish for something else made peace move further away from us, right? So Jesus can't do any magic tricks, right? What he is doing in this Course is for us to realize that the cause and effect relationship that is in our mind, the cause being what we wish and the effect being what we experience. And right now, how we're learning this is we look at what we're experiencing throughout the day, the 24 hours a day, what we're experiencing, what is our state of mind, and we connect it to the cause, which is our wish to have exactly that experience, right? As a counterpoint, as a defense against the peace of God, right? So when he says, I want the peace of God, the lesson, that would be the ultimate goal of the course, would be for us to want the peace of God, period. Right? That would be the end goal for the course. Because once we want the peace of God, we will have it. If we don't have it, it's because we don't want it yet. And we don't want it yet because we're so afraid of it. And we're afraid of it because we believe we're so sinful. So we don't want the peace of God yet because we believe we are the home of evil, darkness, and sin, right? As lesson 93 says. That is the cause for us not wanting peace. The belief in sin engenders fear. The fear of God then prevents us from pursuing the peace of God because we're afraid of it. Right? And the pain of our not being in the peace of God must be uncovered. It says in chapter 13, The Guiltless World, paragraph 3, the fear of redemption. Chapter 13, section 3, the fear of redemption, paragraph 6. It says, not all the tricks and games you offer it can heal it, for here's the real crucifixion of God's Son. Right, we have to look at that pain, the pain in this mind that is separated from its source. The pain is so apparent when it is uncovered that its need of healing cannot be denied. So the need of healing is the prerequisite for our work with this course, right? We have at some point recognized within us that we need this healing, right? We need to heal our mind because the pain is unbearable, right? Some of us have more, some of us have less or are aware of less, but it is there, right? It cannot be denied. And we uncover that pain because we have placed many layers of defenses above that. You know, we identify with the world at some point in some ways to escape this pain. Right? We're busy with our lives. The reason we're busy with our lives when we have a very, very busy life is to escape the pain that is within, has not been healed, and that pain is the painful recognition that I am completely unaware of the love of God within me. I've blotted it out. Right? I have no recognition of it. Once in a while I get in touch with it a little bit, but in general, all in all, I don't have access to that love of God, and it is the most painful thing to realize. And in one sense, it is where the course leads us to. Right? When he says, the tolerance for pain may be high, but it is not without limit. We have a very high pain tolerance because we believe that the pain we're experiencing is still better than going back to God and being annihilated because of our sin against him. Right? So we think the pain is a good thing. First of all, it keeps us from the peace of God, right? And second of all, we believe it's a payback to say to God, listen, I know I'm a wretched creature. I'm sinful. I'm the home of evil, darkness, and sin. So my pain to you is a payback, and then we cover this pain over. Right? Because if we're in too much pain, we will get closer to this point where it says the tolerance for pain is high, but it is not without limit. If we come closer to the limit of our pain, the ego tries to push us away from that path and say, oh, let's get a new car or a new partner, right? Or let's concentrate on something else. Because once we reach that limit of pain, we recognize its need for healing, right? As he says in this chapter 13. And the pain in the mind is so apparent when it is uncovered that its need of healing cannot be denied. We cannot deny it any longer. Right? It's the pain is too great to live, to quote unquote live in this world without love. Right? It is the drop of water is in the desert, frantically searching for other drops of water to substitute for the ocean. If we look at this image, we can feel the pain of the drop of water in the desert, realizing it is searching in vain. It is searching in other drops for that experience of the ocean. So in one sense, and that's what the counterintuitive part of the Course is that our work with the Course brings us to this point where this pain gets so, it is unbearable, so unbearable that we go to Jesus for real and say, you know what, I really need that healing. I have to look at my my guilt with you so it can be dissolved, so I can go back home. Right? That fervent wish to return home. Okay, the term fervent is not in the Course, but there's a similar one in the workbook. I will be still an instant and go home. Lesson 182. You know, this world you seem to live in is not your home to you, and somewhere in your mind you know that this is true, right? That is that painful recognition that we're not at home here, right? A memory of home keeps haunting you as if there were a place that called you to return, although you do not recognize the voice, nor what it is the voice reminds you of, right? There's a place in us that calls us to return. And that call is painful, right? It is this haunting call that says, you're not at home in this world, right? You have identified with this body so much that you're separate from everything around you, right? Everything is one with you, because in the mind only love is real. So everything is one with you, but you are actively separating out the rest of you when you look outside, right? Everything is separated. And that pain, I believe, the Course leads us toward. Not as a necessity, as a principle. We don't have to feel the pain in order to go back. But for most of us, we need to realize how much we're in pain so that we can make that leap and really go to Jesus for real. And I don't know if you have experienced that, but I have experienced it many times where I'm kind of by default ask for help in my daily life and practice with the Course, but I'm not really doing it. I'm saying, okay, Jesus, look at this with me. I already go to the next one, and I don't let this pain come up. And nothing's really working sometimes, and you kind of like, oh, Jesus, help me with that, help me with this, I have to look at this differently, and all that. And we're kind of swimming in this sea of average application that doesn't go any deeper, right? And once in a while, then I can stop myself, like it's a dead stop, right? Now stop, like think about it, or let it kind of let your mind rest for a while. And it's almost like a sinking in and touching that pain, and from that place go to Jesus and say, please, I really need this I need to look at this guilt for real, right? I don't want to brush at it and just look at it and move on. I need to look at this so I can move through it to the peace of God that is awaiting on the other side. And it says then, nothing so definite that you could say with certainty you are in exile here. Just a persistent feeling, sometimes not more than a tiny throb, at other times hardly remembered, actively dismissed, but surely to return to mind again. Right? We actively dismiss this call within us that tells us we need to go home. We need to become aware of the love that is within us. We can't push it away any longer. It's too painful, right? And the whole world is designed by us to keep us away from that pain, right? Everything we do somehow is supposed to keep that pain at bay. We watch TV, we eat great food, we go on vacation. We try to get that pain away from us. But if you ask people, hey, how are you doing? And a lot of people say, hanging in there. I'm hanging in. That's the pain, right? That's the pain of not having the peace of God. And the Course is one of 1,000 paths, and it leads us straight to that point and then through it to the other side. That's why a lot of its language is geared towards us looking at that guilt within us, because that guilt is the pain over having believed that we separated from God and then being so sinful. And then he says, no one but knows whereof we speak, yet some try to put by their suffering in games they play to occupy their time and keep their sadness from them, right? The fundamental emotion of this world is sadness. It's not joy, right? We all think, oh no, it's joy. We're all, joyful. You can't be joyful in the ego. The only true joy comes, as the Course says, from doing God's will, and doing God's will is to be at peace, right? We can only be joyful if we're in our right mind with the Holy Spirit, experiencing the peace of God, or at least a reflection of it, until we can get to the real one. Right? We try to put by our suffering in games we play, to occupy our time and keep our sadness from us. Right? We don't want to touch that sadness and not see it as sadness because of something outside in the world, somebody died or something happened. No, that sadness is because I believe I successfully annihilated the peace of heaven, and I will never get it back. That's the sadness. Right? It can be very deep. And from that point where we are led toward that point where we uncover all those experiences, right? All the sadness, the pain, guilt, fear, terror. From that point, we can then have a deep, deep request to Jesus and say, I want to go through this. I want this healed. right? There is this movie, I'm sure you've all seen it. When the kid sees dead people, right? I See Dead People. The Sixth Sense, right? The Sixth Sense, 1999. So in The Sixth Sense, the kid, Haley Joel Osment, he sees dead people, and there is this line from the Bible that he says, I think to Bruce Willis. He says, "Out of the depths I cry to you, O Lord." Out of the depth I cry to you, O Lord, right? That fervent, deep cry when we get in touch with that pain, and from there, it's almost like this power rises and we say, Jesus, I'm not going to take no for an answer anymore. I want to have this healed, right? And I think all of us, in one way, shape, or form, at one point or another, come in touch with that pain within us. And the Course leads us toward that, not to stay there, but to move through it to what's beyond it, and what this pain hides, right? The pain hides the joy. And then he says in paragraph 3 in lesson 182, we speak today for everyone who walks this world, for he is not at home. He goes uncertainly about in endless search, seeking in darkness what he cannot find. 1,000 homes he makes, yet none contents his restless mind. He does not understand, he builds in vain. The home he seeks cannot be made by him. There is no substitute for heaven. All he ever made was hell. Right? To realize that this world we're looking at every day, in comparison with heaven, is hell. There is no other hell, right? The Bible talks about hell as this other place. No, this world we look at through the ego thought system is hell, because it is the complete absence of the love of God. Right? And if we look out into the world right now, as it always has been, but it always seems more prevalent, obviously, in the present moment, this world is hell. Right? And in one sense, the Course's path is toward that moment where we realize this world is hell, but I'm the one who made it up. And when I look at with Jesus at my belief in sin, this world will eventually transform into the real world, where there is no loss, right? There's only joy and a happy laughter. And then paragraph 4, it says, perhaps you think it is your childhood home that you would find again, right? So we have this notion that we had a romantic childhood. Some of us don't, some of us do. But we had this romantic childhood and this carefree life, and we want to go back to that. But he says the childhood of your body and its place of shelter are a memory now so distorted that you merely hold a picture of a past that never happened. Yet there is a child with capital C, a child in you who seeks his father's house and knows that he is alien here. This childhood is eternal, with an innocence that will endure forever. Where this child shall go is holy ground. It is his holiness that lights up heaven, and that brings the earth the pure reflection of the light above, wherein are earth and heaven joined as one. So there's this part of us that yearns to get back home, that we have covered over. It's part of us. It's not something separate, right? It's a part of us, but we're more focused on the other part that wants to stay in oblivion, wants to stay in this world as this figure, right? And wants to stay in this darkness forever. And we say, oh, what if I could live for 150 years, right? You know, science is now closing in on the option or the possibility. And then the question is, why would you do that, right? Why would you want to live here in this state of covering over the pain of existing in a separate body? You know, we put an unlimited spirit, an unlimited vast spirit into a tiny vessel, this body, and we believe we can be happy with that. Right? And Jesus all over the course tells us, we'll look at that. We'll really look at this thought, look at that thought process that you have, that you believe you in this body can have any kind of happiness. Some of us are already through with that. They already realize, or we already realize, we can't be happy in this body, right? The body is an equivalent to pain, right? Especially when we get older, we believe the body is an equivalent of pain. What we must realize in this regard is the pain is never in the body, it is always in the mind, projected onto the body, and our identification with the body makes the pain appear to be physical. But the pain is always in the mind, and that pain is the pain of the belief that we have separated from our source, right? We are floating in space like Major Tom. There's no longer connection to the mothership, the sunship, and we're floating away, and we will never be able to return. That is the pain, because the ego says what you have done is now eternity. You cannot go back home. We cut the cord, you're floating in space, and it's over. Right now we do the very best. We get a tiny little planet with a little rock, and we plant some seeds, and we eat some vegetables, and we have a little sunset, you know, at night, and a sunrise in the morning, and we have 4 weeks of vacation, or 2 or 6, or it doesn't matter, right? But we're still in space, completely separated from the mothership, right? And we try to have nice things and nice events, and we look forward to events so that we don't experience that pain. And Jesus says, I get it. But in order to get back home, you have to acknowledge that that pain is here. You put it there, and we can go through that together and come out on the other side. It says, it is this child in you your father knows as his own son. It is this child who knows his father. He desires to go home so deeply, so unceasingly, his voice cries unto you to let him rest a while. And I don't know about you, but I've experienced that many times where I live my life. It's all just like this sea of normal stuff that we live with, right? Normal experiences. And then once in a while, you go to your right mind, and it is as if we take a breath, right? We realize we were underwater for 2 months, and we come up, our head comes over the water, and we breathe in fresh air, the sun is on our face, and we as this song says by Tom Jones, we touch the green grass of home for a moment, right? We get in touch with that sense of homecoming, and we breathe deeply, like, oh, all the heaviness is gone, right? It's all fallen away, and then we go back underwater, right? And it lingers a little bit, that feeling, and then we go back to our normalcy. And the problem is not being in the normalcy. The problem is that we don't realize that's not normal. That is not our natural state, right? Our natural state is not to be in the body. Our natural state is as spirit, as limitless spirit, with only love as its experience. emotion, quote unquote. That is our natural state. Everything else is unnatural, but we're adjusting to it because we believe we're sinful, and that's our lot in life now. Because of this sin, that's what we have. We are limited in a body. We are in a prison, right? The body is nothing but a prison. With the ego thought system, the body is the prison for the Son of God. We can change that if we start to go to the Holy Spirit and become aware of the limitlessness of our spirit that has nothing to do with the body. But in order to get there, we have to uncover the pain that keeps us here, right? It's like the anchor. Pain, guilt, it's the same thing. Some of us experience it differently. It is the absence of peace that we have to look at in order to get to the peace. So this child, he does not ask for more than just a few instants of respite, just an interval in which he can return to breathe again the holy air that fills his Father's house, right? It's very poetic, beautiful language that tells us there is this whole other experience waiting for you beyond this limited self that you think you are. There's an unlimited experience for you, and you know it so well because that is your nature. That is your natural state. This body is not your natural state, right? You are his home as well. He will return, but give him just a little time, that little child. Give him just a little time to be himself within the peace that is his home, resting in silence and in peace and love. So he urges us to go to that place, right, where we can feel this green grass. And it seems like we have no access to this place. And the reason why we have no access to this place is because we have placed this pain in front of it. And looking at the pain, as painful as this is, because it's there anyway, and looking at it and realizing with Jesus that this pain comes from our belief in this sinful self, and ask Jesus to help us, and ask him a little deeper, a little more fervently, right? A little bit more unceasingly. Say, please help me with this belief in sin. Because if we wouldn't have the belief in sin, we wouldn't be in pain, which means we would experience the peace of God. And the belief in sin is what keeps us from it, right? Because it engenders that fear, because we believe we're the home of evil, darkness, and sin, so we can't return to God because we have attacked him and given him that self, that ugly, that murderous self that we believe we are, and now we think he's standing in front of the heaven, these two angels with the swords, and we can't get back in. He will kill us the moment we approach. Right? That is our belief, very deeply buried, and that's a very painful belief, right? That our home is now no longer open to us. And that's what we need to look at with Jesus. That is the focus, the laser focus of this course is on our belief in sin. That is the cause for our pain. And as we approach it, we can start to think of this belief in sin as a construct, as I said before, right? A construct, something we made up, a concept, not a truth. We believe this construct that is our belief in sin, and when we look at it with Jesus, him reminding us of our innocence, that construct of this belief in sin will slowly but surely diminish. We will see it more and more as a construct and not as the truth. right? And once that construct of sin has been weakened, the pain will lessen. And if once the pain lessens and the wish to go home becomes stronger than the fear of going home, then we will go toward God. Right? It's all about our wish to go home. And this wish is buried within us in this pain, in this belief in sin. This child needs your protection, right? This wish to go home. He's far from home. He's so little that he seems so easily shut out, his tiny voice so readily obscured, his call for help almost unheard amid the grating sounds and harsh and rasping noises of the world. Right? We all know this raucous, those harsh noises of the world. I mean, if you think about it, all the noises in the world, like a car, even an electric car, or if you listen closely, all the noises in the world are harsh. When we're in the ego thought system, we don't realize it, right? But they are harsh sounds. But we take them and we cover over our pain with with the noise of the world, right? Visually, auditory, emotionally, physically. We're in this simulation, right, that we ourselves have come up with, and we're caught in it, we're identified in it to avoid what's underneath it, which is the guilt and this belief in sin that brings this massive amount of pain. And the course of action now is to trace everything back to this belief in sin and see it as this model, this thing that we made. We've woven it together, but it's a construct. It's not it's not the truth. Yet does he know that in you still abides his sure protection? You will fail him not. He will go home, and you along with him. This child is your defenselessness, your strength. He trusts in you. He came because he knew you would not fail. He whispers of his home unceasingly to you, for he would bring you back with him, that he himself might stay and not return again where he does not belong, and where he lives an outcast in a world of alien thoughts. He's talking about the mind, right? His patience has no limits. He will wait until you hear his gentle voice within you, calling you to let him go in peace along with you to where he is at home and you with him. I always had this image in my head where, so there was this, it was early on in my journey. It was in the early 90s, and I was looking for kind of Jesus memorabilia, I guess, when I was like around in the city I grew up in, and there was this secondhand store that I went in, and one day there was this picture of Jesus, like a painting, and it was him and two of his followers, and he was kind of turning towards them and extending his hand and saying, "Come with me," right? And that really resonated with me to follow him, wherever he was going. It was a very inconsistent following with many 99% of the time was and is spent in saying, "No, I'm not going," right? And I transferred that at some point in Jesus, because Jesus is in my right mind, in our right mind, so it is us, right? It is part of us. He's not a separate figure. His presence is our presence. In our right mind is his presence. There's no difference, right? So I could see myself as the person, or as the presence, in this case symbolized by Jesus, turning around and telling me, the one that is still caught in the illusion, to follow. And that morphed into the notion that I, as the presence of Jesus at the gate to heaven, was waiting for myself to catch up, and then we could go back home together. So it wasn't some other presence, some other thing that was waiting for me. It was me, right? Me, myself, as the Christ, without guilt, without the belief in sin, at the gate, waiting for me, that part of me that was still caught in the illusion, to catch up, and then we would hold hands, symbolically, and enter into the oneness of heaven together. His patience has no limits. He will wait until you hear his gentle voice within you, calling you to let him go in peace, along with you to where he is at home, and you with him. Right? So we are waiting for ourselves to catch up. And in one sense, there is no hurry. The hurry comes from the ego, because the moment we're hurrying to get back home, we are in the future. We're not in the present moment. Right? There is no hurry to get back home, because we are already at the gate, looking back at this part to catch up. It's a matter of identification. Who do I identify with? In workbook part 2, what is the body? Right? It's a really good. It's not a lesson, but it is between the reviews and the lessons, and it's part 5. Chapter 5, section 5, I guess. What is the body? They have like, what is the world? What is forgiveness? And this is, what is the body? And it talks about the body as our chosen home. And paragraph 5 is so crucial to the whole journey in this. And it says, you will identify with what you think will make you safe. Right? So right now we are identified with the body because we believe this will make us safe, even though it's painful, even though it limits us. It is safe because we believe in the body God will not catch up, right? Because he's in the mind. So we're in the body, we're identified with this body, with this world, with all the problems, because we believe we are safe, and our need for safety overrides our need to go home, our wish to go home. Our fear is stronger than our wish to go home, right? We identify with what makes us safe. We are right now identified with this body. Why? Because we believe that will save us, right? Identification is salvation. That's one of the major principles in the Course, right? You will identify with what you think will make you safe. So right now, if we look at the image of the gate, one part of us is at the gate waiting for the other part, and we are identified with this part that is still caught in the illusion because we feel it is safe there, right? The other part of us is standing at the gate, waiting for us to catch up. And over time, what we can do is no longer identify with this part that doesn't want to go, and slowly learn to identify with the part that is there. Because the ego, the part that doesn't want to go, really never wants to go. The decision maker that is identified with the part of us that is caught in the illusion needs to, at some point, very, very slowly, disidentify with this, because we're no longer so sinful. Our belief in sin is weakened. We can disidentify with this figure, this caught up in the illusion part, and identify with the one at the gate, with the Christ. Right? Identification is salvation. Once we believe that love is what keeps us safe, not this body, this persona, we can identify with the part of us that is already at the gate. And then the struggle stops. Right? Once we identify with this part at the gate, we can join that part and we are safe and we can go home. Right? So you will identify with what you think will make you safe. Whatever it may be, you will believe that it is one with you. Right? Whatever we believe is our safety, we will think we're one with it. So right now, we believe we're safe within this body. We are one with this body 100%. We can only not be one with this body if we're with the presence of the Holy Spirit. And then we have a completely different experience of limitlessness, right? As long as we don't have that, we can safely assume, and for the sake of applying the principles of the Course, it's good to assume we are 99.99999% identified with the body, right? It's good to look at that and then trace it back to why we're so identified, because it's our safety. Why do we need to be safe? Because we believe we have committed a grievous, grievous sin. But whatever it may be, you will believe that it is one with you. Whatever I identify with is one with me. Your safety lies in truth and not in lies, right? So that's the whole Course. Jesus does two things. One, he says you need to look at why you're not at peace. You wish not to be at peace. You need to look at that, right? You need to look at the lie in order to get to the truth. You need to look at the pain in order to get to the joy. It's all the same, right? Your safety lies in truth and not in lies. Our safety lies in identifying with that presence at the gate and not the one that is struggling in the illusion. But we can't identify with that presence in the gate until we have realized why we're so identified with this struggling thing in the illusion, because we believe it's our safety. And over time as we learn that sin is a concept we came up with, it is not the truth, we can begin to realize that safety lies, as the Course says, in truth and not in lies. Love is your safety. Fear does not exist. Fear is in the illusory concept that we're identified with right now, right? Love does not exist because love is the one thing that is eternal. Nothing real can be threatened, right? Fear is not real, but we're so identified with it that we believe it is. Your safety lies in truth and not in lies. Love is your safety. Fear does not exist. Identify with love and you are safe, right? If we identify with love, with that presence at the gate, we will be safe. And that is not just a saying. If we identify with love, there will be no more danger to us. And we can't fathom that in this world. Because the ego has taught us that if we become loving, we are going to be destroyed, because the innocent do not survive in this world, right? But if we identify with love, truly identify with love, not just with the special love, but truly identify with love, with that presence that is already at the gate, we will be in complete safety. No more dangers, because the fear is only in that illusory part of us. So identify with love and you are safe. Identify with love and you are home. Right? If we identify with love, we are home. If we identify with this illusory, struggling figure, we are not at home. We're in this body, right? And then the last sentence is identify with love and find your capital S self. Find yourself. Because our self is love. That is what's standing at the gate, right? This presence of love. And we now, as the decision maker, have this decision to make, right? Hence the word. But we can't quite make it yet because our belief in sin prevents us from seeing love as safety. For us, while we believe in sin, we believe love is dangerous. So we can't simply just say, oh, I'm going to identify with love, right? I love you all, right? We can't identify with love because of the belief in sin. And that belief in sin is the pain. And that pain is where Jesus leads us to uncover it at first and then re-evaluate it with his help to say, can this belief in sin that is the cause for all this pain, can this be true? Can I truly be the home of evil, darkness, and sin? Yes or no, Jesus? What say you? Right? And the more fed up we are with this pain, the more we're not going to take no for an answer with Jesus. We're not going to weakly say, please, am I sinful? We're gonna start to be a little bit more powerful with him and say, tell me, am I sinful? Yes or no? Right? And he can only say that you are 100% innocent because you cannot separate from God. So coming back to this first line that we read, tolerance for pain may be high, but it is not without limit. Eventually, everyone begins to recognize, however dimly, that there must be a better way. And this recognition becomes more firmly established. It becomes a turning point. And in our later work with the Course, that turning point is when we realize we are identified with this figure, but the presence of love that is also us, we could also identify with. And that would be our safety. But right now, we still believe we're sinful. And that's what the work is, right? We don't really have to try to identify with love. We can do it, but it's not going to work, right? What does work is realize why we don't want to identify with love. Because we believe we're so sinful, and that is our work with the Course over the decades, to uncover this belief in sin and slowly but surely turn it into this belief in sin into a construct. We look at it from all sides and we're like, oh yeah, this is constructed. This isn't a real thing. This is just somebody put pieces together and now they form what seems to be coherent, whole, but it's not. It's made out of fragments that are woven together from this belief in sin. And eventually we will realize that that construct of our sin is not real. And when that falls away slowly, we can then slowly loosen our identification with this fear and identify with the love that we are in truth, and that will then lead us home. I think my voice says, stop talking. All right, I'll see you next time.